there are exceptions, but with relatively few exceptions to the rule, most men are masturbating and ejaculating at least once a day, if not multiple times per day, and they're doing it while watching porn. That's true of, like, especially young men. I think as we age, that may change, but a lot of men are doing that. And so that's a situation where sexual energy and biology is just it's just steering the ship. You know, you've got literally this animal inside of you with both hands on the wheel, and the human is just along for the ride. And that's not going to be optimal, you know, for a lot of reasons. Like the Taoists would literally say, and the Taoists, you know, they had all kinds of sexual jujitsu and like manipulation of sexual energy and turning it into qi and shen and all of this sexual esoteria. And, you know, I don't want to go down that sort of path, and it's not even my place to do that. But even a path such as Taoism that is so versed in playing with sexual energy, even for them, their take on it is like, that shit will just take years off your life. Just masturbating, ejaculating every day. You know, most guys are like doing it as fast as possible. Oh, a little bit of pressure builds up and then release. That's going to take years off of anybody's life. That's just not going to be healthy. So the fact that you've kind of put that beast on a leash and like you've got both hands on the wheel now, that's great. So you don't necessarily need more discipline. It's more of like a direct connection with sexual energy and learning to work with it and cultivate it as life force itself. And so what I would suggest is my general protocol for people up to about 30 to mid 30s is once every 4 days. So engage, you know, typically this is masturbation, but engage with that energy once every 4 days. Don't use porn. So you can use your imagination at first to like get yourself revved up. And then as soon as your system is heated up and you're kind of going, move your awareness onto the energy itself and the feeling of pleasure within your body. So it becomes a meditative practice. And you're meditating not on your breath or on emotional content or something like that. Rather, you're meditating on the sexual energy cultivating in your body. And the initial practice is to bring yourself close to the point of no return. There's that tipping point that every man is probably aware of, where if you go past it, you ejaculate and you can't control it anymore. So get as close as you can to that point of no return without tipping over, and then just pull back. And see if you can hold more sexual energy, more pressure in your body. And I shouldn't say that as pressure. It feels like pressure, but it begins to refine and circulate throughout the system. And so it's more like pleasure. See how much pleasure you can hold in your physical body. And eventually, you know, this doesn't actually take very long. It can happen in like a few practices. It really rewires the nervous system quickly, but it gets to a point where you can almost kind of not have, there is a point at which you can begin to have like non-ejaculatory orgasms, multiple orgasms, but put that aside and just see how much pleasure you can hold in your body. And then notice how much control you have over ejaculation itself. And this not only, of course, makes you like, you know, better with a partner. Obviously it does that, but it also just gives you all of this command over your biology and over your nervous system. Your nervous system the container becomes bigger to hold more. And that is a practice that like definitely lengthens your life. And then there's a lot of actual therapeutic benefit to orgasm itself. Like orgasm is a sort of, natural stress reliever. It releases all these endorphins. It has all of these positive benefits. Of course, if you're doing it constantly, you're draining your life force. But see then when you do finally release, and you should give yourself at first about 10 minutes, build up to maybe 20, even 30 minutes. And then when you do release, once you've got like total control, you can take yourself right to the edge and you can prolong it and hold it there and do all sorts of stuff. Just experiment, play with yourself literally, but play with the energy. When you do finally release, see if you can actually prolong the orgasm itself, and not doing this with your mind, but just slowing down the tempo and getting into this point where like the pleasure's building, it's building, and you slow it down and see if you can stretch out the orgasm before you release. And this is just various ways to like play with that energy and get to know your body and get to know what you actually like and get to know yourself on that level. Like that's just a really beautiful part of the human experience, and it makes you better with a partner. It makes you healthier. And what you'll find is when you prolong that orgasm before you went into this 8-month protocol, you know, or for somebody that's just like releasing every day, probably that orgasm is very localized. It's like in the genital region, maybe a little bit in the stomach, and maybe a little bit in the leg, but it's very localized to the part of the body that's being stimulated. Once the pleasure is prolonged and the orgasm is prolonged, what you'll find is that that energy is spread throughout your body, and you can start to have what some people would refer to as like a full body orgasm or close to full body orgasm. And so the orgasm itself is therapeutic throughout the entire nervous system. And it has this really deeply sort of nourishing and healing effect on the physical system, assuming you don't do it every day. And so again, the protocol is once every 4 days, or you could even do like once a week, twice a week, something like that. I also recommend doing it in good posture, just like we do with meditation. So I would use like the meditation stool or something where you're upright, you're not hunched over and contracted down the front side of your body. So you're in good posture. Let it take at least 10 minutes to begin with, build up to 20, even 30 minutes. Try to build the pleasure in your body, get as close to the point of return as possible without going over. Let it build within your system. See how much pleasure you can hold comfortably in your system without wanting to, and notice when you want to release it and then just back off. So you're overriding the biology and rehabituating the pattern in your favor. You're bringing your biology under control. And then when you do decide to release, prolong it, slow it down, and see if you can fill your body with that sort of wave of orgasm that happens. So all of that said, rule number 1 is experiment and run your own experiments on yourself. There's no wrong way to do this. I'm giving guidelines, but while you're actually in the practice, it's really just, you have free reign to like, see if you can even stimulate like the sides of your legs or your arms or other parts of your body. It should be, yeah, laying down, Jonas, is totally fine. It should be a practice of getting to know your body, not just jerking off. Get to know yourself as a human body. And this is a gateway into a lot of like really deep realization about just what it means to be human and what it means to be a human that has is a channel for sexual energy and creative energy. It's a really beautiful practice. And final thing I should mention, I think I also mentioned this in the retreat videos, zinc picolinate after ejaculation, after release, will help replenish that system of your body. It'll help actually like, it'll help reinitiate the process of literally rebuilding your store of sperm, essentially is what it does. So zinc picolinate, 15 to 30 milligrams. I think maybe Simon, do you want to put that in the chat? Like pure encapsulations or thorn, zinc picolinate, Amazon. Simon, if you could put that in the chat. And then a practice for stimulating Jing or constitutional chi is testicular massage. And so the first year that we were at retreat, this is what Kyle was referring to and what I was trying to find 2 golf balls because we ran and got golf balls so I could actually demonstrate this, but we don't have it on camera. We were like outside doing this session. Testicular massage is a gentle testicle massage. Like, it's exactly what it sounds like. You basically use the palms of your hands and you sort of roll the testes, not aggressively, do this gently, but applying a little bit of pressure to stimulate the movement of chi through the testes. I do about 100, somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 first thing in the morning when I wake up. So I go into the bathroom as I'm drinking my water. I'll do like the testicular massage, about 100 repetitions. You can do more. Don't do this to the point of pain. That's an obvious disclaimer. It should not hurt. It can be like mildly sore where there's a lot of stagnant chi. That's okay. But if it's painful, that's a problem. Back off. You can do, I do about 100, and also stretching. So like essentially the base of the, not only the base of the penis, but also like underneath the base of the scrotum. If you have it sort of like, this is getting really graphic, but like you're not tugging, but you're gently stretching the whole unit. Okay. Stretching gently, again, just to release stagnant chi. All of this in the same spirit of keeping your body healthy. Your source of health, to a large extent, is your sexual organs. And those that have, significant blockages or dysfunction in their sexual organs are going to have blockages and dysfunction throughout the rest of their body. Those that have blockages and dysfunctional relationships to their sexuality in general are going to have blockages and dysfunction in their physical health as well, and in their mind. It should be said, modern society is massively, massively perverted. Just because it's normal doesn't mean it's natural. Our relationship to sexuality as a society as a whole is massively perverted. And after I went into that 18-month, now it's been 2 years of total time in isolation, abstaining from all sexual activity, all sexual thoughts, all of that. After sort of unplugging myself from my sexuality and then plugging back in and noticing the change that occurred like within my relationship to it, what I basically noticed, and I thought that this was a problem initially, is that I don't go through the world. Like I have very, very little motivation towards sex. I'm not seeking it out. I'm not seeking partners to hook up with. If I see an attractive woman, I'm not immediately turned on. If I do, if I meet a partner, I've had one girlfriend since that time. And so when we engaged with each other, it could switch right on, and it could switch on in a really strong way. It was obviously there, but it wasn't engaged by default. It was off by default and could switch on when the time was right. And I actually wondered to myself, like, is this a problem? I need to make myself do the day 4 practice as we described it. I need to actually discipline myself. Like, okay, you need to like sit down and do this for general health and like to keep the sword sharp, so to speak, and all of that. And I asked my teacher, and he's just like, no, dude, that's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to be. Humans are fucked in their relationship to sexuality. Totally fucked. Totally perverted. I have friends who can't look at a woman without undressing her in their mind. And they've said this to me. It's like, no, that's not how it should be. Okay. That's more chimpanzee than human. If you think about that scene in Dune, those who read the book or watched the movie, one of the first scenes in the story is that old woman, and the main character, Paul, has his hand in that box. And she says, we're going to see if you're human or animal. And he has to keep his hand in the box, which essentially caused like searing pain to his hand. And she says, if you're an animal, your pain threshold and your neurobiology is going to override your willpower, and you're going to pull your hand from that box. If you're human, you have control over your neurobiology, and you'll keep your hand in the box despite the pain. And the cost of like pulling his hand out was basically dying, right? So this is one of the scenes in Dune. What that Frank Herbert is depicting there is what we're talking about. It's not as extreme as like searing pain in your hand, but it is as extreme as a lot of like sexual urges coming up in your system, and you learning how to override those, and not override them in a disciplined way, shoving them down, repressing them, but the ability to hold sexual energy and pleasure in your nervous system and be comfortable with it, and not have to act on it, not have to, again, using your dick as a squirt gun, like just releasing as soon as the pressure builds up, being able to just hold it comfortably. That's a like basic human skill that I wish they taught in, like, how is this not taught in sex ed? Seriously, everything that we just spoke about, it's crazy to me. Of course, the teachers aren't aware of it, and like this is probably considered esoteric practice, but should it be? Like, this is so basic. Nothing I said was anything like ninja, sexual, voodoo, jujitsu, like none of that shit. We didn't, everything was just normal. It was like, yo, pull on your balls and massage them in the morning so that you like stretch everything out and energy's moving smoothly. Yeah, like, of course you should do that. We stretch and move our body. Like, you should probably do that with your sexual organs too. Like, don't ejaculate every day. You know, like it's not that complicated. These are basic human practices for health. So I just want to reiterate that it's like the disclaimer that has to be made with when every time I give this talk, it's like, yo, there's a much healthier relationship we can have to sexuality, and the benefits of having a healthy relationship to sexuality are so enormous. Not only a healthier sex life, but a healthier life as a whole, and a longer life as a whole.